Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paranormal, the New Normal. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy, here trying to bring a little normalcy to this world. Does it ever truly happen? No, God, no. But anyway, we try. Today, might happen, a little bit. We'll figure that out in a bit, because I have another amazing guest joining me to help me on this epic quest. It's been a lot of them, hasn't there? And my guest today is Gao Motsemme, who is a psychic surgeon and a human MRI, and I am dying to get into both of those in a bit. But first things first, how you doing today? This lovely, well, morning for me. I'm not sure what time of the day it is where you are, but
Thanks for having me. I'm grateful and blissful. And yeah, it's afternoon here.
ah,
It's after 3, yeah.
okay, yeah. No, we just woke up here an hour or so ago, so it's morning here. I This is one of my rare coffee editions of my show, rather than my usual late night times. But uh,
Awesome.
so let me start this off the way I start every interview off. What led you down this path to the spiritual world that you now live in on a daily basis?
That's a great question. And I'm just gonna start first by also greeting you and your audience. And I'm doing this in my native language. I originally come from Botswana in Southern Africa, although I reside here in Germany now for 10 plus years. So, Dumelang, Dumelang, Lokai. And the direct translation of Dumelang is agree. And since we are here in the paranormal, the new normal, what are you agreeing to when you're showing up here? And look, guys, where you locate yourself. So whenever you're watching this and you are listening to this, where are you? Are you fully here, present, or part of you is still stuck in the normal? Are you allowing yourself to just embrace your new normal, however that may be? So yeah,
Exactly.
that's my greetings.
Exactly.
And what brought me to this, I would say this is what I've always known. That's what I've always known before I was told otherwise. I was just like that child who knew. I knew since I was a child that I'm weird. I'm a healer because those are the things that before I actually forgot or conditioned to forget that those are the conversations that I had since I was a child. And the first thing that I got was, oh, you may have to go to church because you're going to be a traditional doctor. So it was like, don't go that path, but it's what I've always known, but I learned the way because of the desire to belong, to be accepted. I kind of like put the weird on somewhere, we try to push it under the rug or something and think that it will just go away and that's it. But then life happened, where I lost my corporate job, which was I was an accountant, and I did it just for money and for an identity. Not that I loved it. It was something that was sucking life out of me. Because when you do something that you're not in alignment with, even if there is money, it doesn't nourish your soul. So there I was lost in that, and then motherhood came. There I was with motherhood, and as much as I always believed I'm doing the best that I could for my children, but I was also not available because the work was giving me stress. I hated it, and I was working crazy overtimes. That means the children were always with the maid. But after losing my job, losing my mom, and then the father going to court and being separated with my children, that's when it's kind of like, what's the point of being here? What's the point of being a mother if I can't be with my children? What does life even mean? So that brought me to me and to what I'm doing. It was the painful, devastating moment, but at the same time, I found my way to myself. And with that said, I always say if I have to go through this again to find myself, I will. So that's what brought me to this.
Well, I mean, and well, first things first. Yeah, trust me, I understand all too well the feeling that you think when you think you're weird and you don't fit into normal society, and the urge to push that underneath is pretty big. It's a pretty big urge, but eventually we all come out of the cocoon and just realize, yeah, we are who we are. Okay, we're good. Everybody else can adapt. That's the way I see it at least. But everybody else can adapt to how we are.
Yeah.
But I mean, so you've known since you were young that you had some kind of abilities that you just never. I'm guessing where you grew up, they weren't really embraced. Of course, they were kind of. If anybody found out about them, they would assume there's something wrong. They would assume it's demonic. They would assume it's some kind of evil spirit, or they would assume something's wrong where you grew up. I'm assuming because that's usually how these type of things happen.
Yeah, that's actually a great question because now that you're asking that, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I think when they're in the shadows in my family, in the shadows, they're just kind of like, okay, they know that this is what exists within our lineage. But the most important thing is you don't get to accept it. Because now that I've embraced it, that's when some of my siblings are just like, she's demonic, like I've made peace with that and I'm like, here I am. And some are like, I don't know, satanism, whatever. Now it's kind of like that. But when we were talking about it as children, because everybody was experiencing that, whether it's through dreams, there was just that something that is out of the normal that was happening. Or even when you discuss in some dreams, actually, it can happen that at times we wake up and we're talking about our dreams and we've had similar dreams. It's kind of like, this is what happened, this is what happened. Oh, to me too. So we experience that. And on the other hand, especially when it comes to being aware of the darkness, we were both like all the family were aware of that, so it was okay to talk about all the darkness and everything that happens and all that is something that is out there. But then when it comes to saying, but what is my role in this? Because for me, that was the question that I was asking. Even when it comes to dreams, why would I have this kind of dreams and they end up happening? Why would you show me something that I can't control? For me, this was like something that I was questioning. But as much as they believed in the power of that and the message that comes with that, because some things were playing out in real life, but it was kind of like, let's not go there because of the fear, like what my mom shared with me. When we look at the evolution now, it's much easier. Our body has evolved. We can hold the codes and the energy that is coming through compared to past generations, and where even right now we have people who had to go through some like coma or something for them to be able to go through that change that was needed. So my mom experienced one of her uncles disappearing, like for many years. They grieved and thought that the person was dead, but then the person showed up after many years, now fully embodied in his magic, and he was really doing magic like big time. And those were like the old times. And then there was also a sister of hers who, she was so connected to an extent where she was perceived as crazy. And I have a lot of those relatives. So I think it was more the fear of, when you embrace this, you don't have power over your life. It's kind of like something that controls you. So they wanted to hold into the control. And the control is something that they found in what? By going to church. Like
Yeah,
when I give an example with my mom was gifted, but when you don't embrace it, it becomes the gift that is more in the shadows, because you get to see more what is happening in the dark. And this is what I hated. For me, it was like, I don't want to keep on seeing this. What about the light? What is it I can do with it? And my mom was gifted, but she never really did anything with it until she passed, because in her church, she was waiting for a pastor, a priest, whatever, to sort of like allow her to start using her gifts and healing people. And for me, it's like she's not living her truth. And this is why when people do that, there is kind of like this fear of darkness being more powerful than the light, because you are not fully embracing your power. Like there is that power, but like you kind of, because of the fear, you get to see all the dark, but you are not able to see what you can do when you embrace that magic and transmute what needs to be transmuted. So that's what was up with my family. It was okay in the dark, but now when I embrace it, it's more like, even my mom from the other side, she was like, if I was still alive, I don't know if I would believe you. But because now she's on the other side, she can see things differently. It's kind of like, oh, okay. She understands why I was always crazy, because that's what I was called, the crazy one, you know.
well, yeah. I mean, it's unfortunately that's the way it was back in those days. I mean, people didn't want to embrace their abilities because everybody, from what I've been told and what I believe, everybody has some kind of ability in the spiritual psychic world, whether
Yeah.
it's not all of us can see the dead, not all of us can hear the dead, not all of us can sense them, but we all have some ability to connect with the other side. And no matter how minor or major that ability may be, the more we shun it and the more we push it away, you use it or you lose it, as a famous Motley Crue song goes. But I
Absolutely.
mean, either you use it or you lose it. I mean, if you don't open yourself to it and practice with it, you're not going to be able to do it much longer. Eventually, it's just going to fade away, and then you're not living your true purpose because it's fate. It's fated that we are supposed to do these things, and yeah, you could deny fate, but eventually it's gonna come out. It just may not come out till it's too late. It may come out when you're on the other side, as your mother embraced it. But
Yeah.
I mean, and yeah, your uncle disappearing for years. That makes sense because a lot of times when people go on these spiritual journeys, they like a lot of them like to travel. A lot of them want to go to try to find answers elsewhere because you may not be able to find it where you live at that moment or where you anywhere near where you live at that moment. I mean, I've talked to people who've gone across the world looking for answers to their abilities, and they found them, but they had to go to the jungles of South America. They had to go to the mountains of Tibet. Like they've had to go to a lot of different places to find what they're looking for. It's not always going to knock on our front door and just say, "Yeah, I'm here." Like that's not the way
That's
life
true.
works.
That's true.
So, I guess, well, let's kind of go into what it is you do actually, because I mean, you do a very specific type of healing, and why don't we get into the from? I'll let you tell it in your own words what kind of healing it is you do.
Yeah. And I love what you said by going to other different places and all that, because as much as well as I knew what I knew, on the other hand, it took me being completely out of my environment for me to start seeing things differently. It's kind of
Of
like I
course,
had to release the beliefs or even the fear of darkness the way it was for me to start realizing that there is another way that I can play with this. And at first, it was more like I wanted to do what everybody's doing. It's kind of like, okay, so I want to do that. I want to channel angels and all that. And the more I tried to do that, the more I found myself lost. It's kind of like I was disconnecting still from this. And the message that I got was just like, you got to go back to your roots. So when I came in and connected with my ancestors, which is my roots, which is what everybody denied, that's when I get to fully connect to this genius. Because what I do when I'm talking about a human MRI, when I connect with someone, it's kind of like I get to scan the body and see what is happening. Where are the whatever emotions stored, where the mental blocks, physical blocks, pains, and all that. So I just get to know that what needs more attention. It's more like the body is more communicating with me. I can be here having a conversation or even talking about something, but then the body's what is going to share with me where these emotions and blocks are stored, or even if it's ancestral and all that. And then when I do the work, which is what I mean by psychic surgery, it's more like removing that, but without you being opened. Like the way when I look back at how my ancestors did it, it was more like just like drinking fire. That's how they transmute it and just let it go. But that's how I also get to do it, but differently. Instead of like before, it was more like giving people some medicine and all that, or even just pulling it out, however they were doing it. But it's more like more modern, but again, still the African ancient way that my ancestors used to do it. So it's more working on the body and bringing people on the body and removing whatever that is not needed. Even when it comes to conversations, for instance, we may be talking about relationships, and there is what the conscious knows it wants. But then when I look at the body's having a different conversation. As in, you may talk about a relationship, how some you want an emotional available partner and all that. But when I look at the body, it's not expansive when you bring that on. It's more there is that constriction that is happening. And where is that stored? Especially when I look at one thing that is just like coming to mind, one simple thing, it's even being afraid of giving away your power. When that is because of the maybe the abuse that either you went through or you've witnessed through the parents, then there is that constriction that comes through the solar plexus. But often I would say 90%, it always takes me. I can go to the inner child, but the inner child is gonna take me either to the ancestors or other lifetimes where some things happen. So it's more like a map. I had to sort of like trace this map that is showing up and go to the core of it, and then remove that, and other things get to fall in place. That's how I do my thing.
Which is interesting 'cause, I mean, not all of our inner childs have trauma. Like some of them, like I'm pretty sure. Well, I mean, maybe I have a little. I don't know, but I mean, not everybody's inner child is going to have trauma, so it makes sense that it would go to past lives because past life regressions are a very popular thing for a reason. Because
Yeah,
sometimes the issues we have in this life have nothing to do with this life; they have to do with previous lives dating back centuries and millennia, even. I mean, that
yeah.
I mean, if there's a whole nother topic there with extraterrestrials, but we'll stay away from that for now. But I, I mean, uh, do you do any? Well, I mean, technically, I guess you do past life transgressions if the inner child is taking you to the past lives to figure out what's going on. So I guess that would make sense to a degree. And well, I guess the best way maybe to have my audience and maybe myself a little bit too understand it a little better is there what's a good what tell me about an experience you've had helping somebody with this where you had to go into their past lives through their inner child.
Hmm. I'm gonna start first with me because for me this is like something that blew my mind, And I went through. There was some dysfunction growing up, and here I was as a child. I had this anger. I grew up with this anger, and then I thought it was because of this lifetime's experiences. And then one day, I had this just voice asking me, "Do you want to know why I'm angry?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I want to know." And I just went to bed, and as soon as my bed hit the pillow, I just went into this trance, and it I teleported basically to another lifetime. And this inner child showed me a lifetime where she was molested by her own father in that lifetime. But what is interesting is how those imprints were alive in my body. It's like I was experiencing that in this lifetime. And on the other hand, even me, when there was that issue of sexual abuse, I didn't have any memory of that in this life. I was like, I don't remember being sexually abused. But on the other hand, there was question marks, like from that knowing, there was that question marks where it's kind of like, I just don't know. Like I had a feeling that there is something there, but I didn't know what it was, until this inner child teleported me to another lifetime and showed me what happens. And besides what I've seen, the imprints that were in my body was what was mind blowing. And the moment I integrated that aspect, that's when, even when it comes to my work with helping people embrace their sexual sovereignty, that's when that opened. Because this aspect did not want anything to do with that because of the experience that she had. So even when it comes to whether it's deepening of our gifts, the inner child knows the way, she has the codes to our vision. And I talk a lot about even our sexual energy, but when it comes to evolution, it's that life force energy of creation. When it comes, it's connected to our mind, it's connected to our creativity, it's connected to our pleasure. Because even when you talk about worthiness is, am I worthy of really living a joyful life, of creating what I desire, of speaking my truth into existence, not just speaking my truth, but into existence, as in giving birth to that. So when I look at it, and a lot of people, especially, not only, but especially women, when we're in this body for many generations, and even when I look at what is happening in this lifetime, when you look at the whole sexual trafficking, sexual abuse, and all that, why is that happening? Because of the magic of what this energy holds. And for anyone to have power over you, it is more the sexual abuse. This is why even when there was war or something like that, the soldiers that are coming in, what do? For them to disempower men, they have to rape their women. And a man who feels
Mhm.
like I was not enough, because if I was enough, I would have um, protected my woman or my children or whatever. He's weak, and that was just like a way of disarming men through this. And a woman who is sexually abused immediately shuts off. And even when it comes to connecting to their gifts, with this life force energy affected, and then comes this whole I'm not saying go off the depression medication or anything, but on the other hand, all this medication, different kinds of them, even the antidepressants, they also affect our sexual energy, so this is why often people, they may have that, because what it does is that it produces those feel good hormones from the head, but not it happening from the gut, so there's a lot that I just say there. I don't even know how I got there, but there's just a lot that is packed up. But the most important thing is it didn't start with you. Whether you believe in past life or you believe in ancestors, on the other hand, is that if this has been in your ancestral lineage, then you are creating from it. This is why, for me, when I talk about embodying your freedom of individuality, which is like at the core, it's more like, what templates are you creating from? Is it your unique soul signature blueprint, or you are creating from what has been passed on? Which is, I believe, we all have to look at that, because otherwise you are born into this templates, which is like at the core of my work, even when it starts with the name. Who are you? You were born and you were given a name that has been passed on for many generations. And there is a lot in there when it comes to the name. And as women, we are born into our family. There is a name, a frequency that is in the name, and all the, yeah, poverty consciousness, separation consciousness, and all that we're holding into this name. And then you get married again, you want to go and carry your husband's name. It also has its own history. So it's kind of like you are carrying all the history. And if you don't know some of the things, especially when it comes to our identity, who are you? The name is a big part of our identity. When I connect with you, I'm connecting with you as Jeremy. When I'm writing a check, I'm writing your name and a surname. Everything, it has something to do with your name. And where does that come from? And some people don't even like their names, so there is that they, they they don't accept themselves, they don't like that name, and you expect other people to like that name, to like your name. Or even when people are saying your name, what frequency is coming through that name? I've had, and
Mhm.
even speaking about my experience and all that, I've had like an experience where I'm talking to someone, and she had a call, and she's like, okay, hold on. I'm holding on, and she's talking to somebody, and this person is talking to her. And after she was done, I'm just like, who the heck were you talking to? And she's like, oh, somebody from the church community and all that. I'm like, that person is disgusted by you. You disgust her, you know and you realize, like, it's things like that you get to pick up. And even when it comes to your name, because from there, the first thing that I did was connecting to her name to find out what is happening. And there was also that is like, her name was also holding that disgust energy. So even when people connect with her name or are talking about her, there is nothing inspiring, opening, expansive about her name. So we started working on that. So it's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. That's all I can say about some of the experiences. But I have a lot. Yeah.
I mean, well, okay, a lot to unpack there. A lot to unpack. But names definitely have power. I'll start there because names are powerful. I mean, it's just oh, okay, it's already kind of public at this point, but my wife is pregnant, and we, yes, I'm bringing another female into this world, but and like trying to pick names, we went back and forth for days and weeks on names because it's just names have power. You think like, what kind of life is this kid gonna have if I give it this name? Because you think like, okay, like you have memories of somebody with that name, and either there's good memories or bad memories attached to it. And I mean, it could just be something personal and stupid and silly from when you were a kid, and this person with that name picked on you or something like that, or they were just not a good person. Or I mean, you could think like think back in history, like, okay, people with this name in history usually didn't have the best lives from what I remember. Like it's names have power. I mean, there's a reason that there's a reason that in a lot of mythology, legends, knowing someone's true name can destroy them. I mean, in a lot of fairy
Oh yeah.
tales too, like folklore, like knowing creatures or somebody's real name has power because if you say that in some of them, if you say the real name, you could stop the person, you could control
Yeah.
them, which is there's a reason for that because names hold
Yeah.
power, they really do, and that's why a lot of people. I've met a lot of people who aren't happy with their names, and it's you could tell it weighs on them, it weighs them down, and they're not embracing everything as
Oh,
fully as they should be because of that. It weighs them down.
the
And
truth in that.
yeah, I mean, I honestly can't say if I ever really liked my name or not. I just kind of, it was unique. So I stuck with it. I mean, because I didn't know that many Jeremys at the time, besides a stupid Bullfrog song. But
Uh-huh.
I didn't, I mean, but because my full name is not Jeremiah, thank God. Thank God. But I
Oh,
mean, I
okay.
know it has I know Jeremiah has biblical weight and it has all this other weight attached to it, but the name Jeremy, not much historical significance to it from what I've seen. Not much bad or good associated with it. It was always kind of neutral, which is why I kind of just liked I dealt with it because it was neutral. It just I figured I could make my own path and make myself I mean, I found out as I got older, yeah, there's a lot of songs out there with Jeremy, and then there's a lot of people that were named Jeremy in the past, but none of them are really historically significant in any way that I've heard of. So I'll be the first one that gets historically significant. I'm good with that.
I love that because as soon as you said, I don't know, like, and you're like referring to this name, it's kind of like, I don't know how to. It's kind of like when when like something small but a little bit sharp but not so small. I don't know if I have anything that I can show you. There was kind of like this energy that pierced a little bit on the solar plexus. Just when you said, I don't know what my name, there was just like that a little bit of that in the solar plexus when you spoke about the name. And I also have a story even behind my name. It's not the name that is here, it's the middle name because I was called after my father's, especially if you're called after your father or called after your father's sister. I was called after my father's sister. So I grew up with that, like people used to refer me with that name. But then it was just okay. I didn't like it because mostly it was more like calling me an old woman because they were respecting my father's sister and all that. So when I was young, I didn't respect it. I didn't like it. But when I grew up, at times I'll take advantage when I say something and someone's like, I'm older than you. I'm like, yeah, but don't forget that you're talking to this person. So I used it where it fits, where I knew I could benefit. But then after my mom passed, I just went because I was relocating and I needed my birth certificate. I didn't collect my birth certificate all along. And I went to take my birth certificate and I realized, hmm, my middle name is not here. So I'm going to use it. And I'll put my middle name in my birth certificate. And while I was going through these trials and tribulations of who am I? Who am I? Um, it just came as like that little voice and just say, you want to know who you are? And I said, yeah. And I also got into that trance and I started wanting to say my name, like my full name, first name, middle name, and the same name. But when I go to the middle name, I was blinking out, blank, blank, blank. And I'm trying to force it. But my head is shaking, even though I'm blanking out, my head is shaking. As in like this is not who you are. And as I'm trying to force it, it's kind of like another portal open. And I got to connect with the owner of this name and the close relatives and everything. And I realized that when my mom was married into this family, and this is, and I believe a lot of people can relate with this because when it comes to mother-in-law, there is that energy of, ooh, mother-in-law, there is that not acceptance energy. Who are you bringing this person to, so there was that where they were not accepting of my mom and they were also, I would say, name calling, and somehow my paternal lineage or paternal family felt more superior than my mother. So it was kind of like this woman, and you're gonna give our name to this woman, like her child is gonna be called by this name. And what is happening with that? My own family is not accepting me because they have a problem with my mom. So at that moment, the frequency that is being anchored here is of abandonment rejection that I'm feeling from my paternal family, and now that I even put this name in my birth certificate, it's there in my passports and everything. It was also the name that also had that frequency that was not in alignment with who I am and what I want to receive and create. So I had to do a lot of work around this name. At first, actually, I wanted to just remove it, but because I'm in a different country, I couldn't. I have to go back home and do a lot of process and all that. But I had to do a lot of name around it. So at times it's just that you may have been given a name, and or even start with just when you're conceived, and then the mother tells the father that, hey, I'm pregnant. It's kind of like, I'm not ready for this. Or even a woman can say, I'm not ready for this child. So there's just a lot that comes with that. Even the name, I love that you and your wife are taking time to really get into that name and feel into it. What does it mean? Where are we coming from even with this name? Because at times we just give a name without much thought. I had
Mhm.
I met someone, I just met someone shortly, and he called himself just like a shortening of the name. But I was curious, like, what is the full name? Is it this? And it was that. But his response was just like, don't you dare call me by that name. And especially women don't call me with that name. And I'm like, ooh, that's very strong. But I'm always curious. So I was just probably like, I just want to know, because I was drawn to your name before anything. Like the moment we just started connecting, your name was calling me. So he just told me that he didn't have, like, the mother didn't prepare a name until last minute, and the mother just called her the name that was like common in that time. So he doesn't feel loved, and because of the relationship that he also has with his mother, even including his name, he doesn't want women to even call him with the full name. So so you can
It's funny.
imagine.
It's funny. I was gonna say, like, okay, he must have some kind of trauma from from his mother or both his parents calling him that full name all the time whenever he did something bad. Because I mean, I've met people who don't like to be called by their full names as well, and it's just there's always a little bit of something behind it. You could tell there's
Yeah.
something behind it, especially if they're strongly like I've had people straight up like say, "Don't call me that. Call me don't don't call me Jonathan, call me John." I'm like, okay, whatever you prefer. But it's just like, example, I can't think of the actual person. It's stuck in my head. I can't think of the person I'm talking about, but that's the example. And it's just like, I get it though. I get it. I mean, I, I, I hate being called Jeremiah when I was a kid from all of it. Even though that's not my real name, it's not my birth certificate. I just hate people used to call me it all the time because of the stupid bullfrog song, because of the biblical meaning behind it, and it's just I don't know. I just don't like that full name, even though like it's not mine. It never has been put on me. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's one of those just weird, strange things. I
But
don't
the
know
great
what
thing is,
behind it.
it's not your paperwork, birth certificate, and all that is not there. So that is like, it's yeah, it's the name that everybody uses. But on the other hand, when it comes to like the things that you need to do, it's not there. But still there is a certain connection that you get to do, if at all. It's what comes through a lot, or what people use a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of what I don't know. It kind of is just a strange thing in life when something bothers you that shouldn't because it's not even related to you in any shape or form. So it's just like, okay, like it's I'll live with this. But
Yeah, so it makes sense why I said the moment you spoke about the name, there was that. Remember what I showed you when I showed you a panel, like, there was that into your power, and it's quite interesting because at times it doesn't make sense why you react the way you react, but there is always a reason, right? You may not know it consciously, but there is a reason why, like, this disturbs you without even knowing why it disturbs you, but there is a reaction. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, everybody has these small things. Everybody has these small things in life that set them off, and they don't know why. Like they don't.
yeah,
They usually. I mean, some of the times they may figure out why, but usually they don't know why, and that's why That's why past life transgressions exist because they can go back and say, okay, this is. It may be from 10 lives ago, but this is what has been going through your lineage for that long, and this is what's been
yeah,
affecting you, and it can be devastating if it's not dealt with, and that's the
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
But while we're speaking on this topic, actually, because I find when I talk to people in the spiritual realm, that they always say that a lot of people have these misconceptions about what aligning their life's going to bring. Like a lot of people think that if they align themselves to their true purpose and all this, that they're going to get rich or they're going to find love their life. Like they think it's going to be an easy fix for a lot of life's problems when most of us know it's not going to be an easy fix. It's never an easy fix. It's just aligning yourself to your true purpose is just kind of like the first step. Am I wrong on this, or am I hitting on something here? Like, because I'm sure people have come to you with like misconceptions about what you'd be able to help them with.
Yeah, especially even when they hear the word psychic, it's kind of like, can you predict my future and tell me what is going to happen and all that? Yeah. So there is that, and actually it's quite interesting because even for me, like when I was, like I said, I was an accountant, and I knew that that's not what I was meant to do, and I wanted to know my purpose. But it's kind of like we always think that when you know your purpose, it's gonna be all roses, like it's just gonna be, yeah, flow and ease. So that's what we think, and you realize that even when you by the time you realize what is it that you're here to do and be, there is also, that's kind of like you said, is the first thing where you also get to, it's kind of like this is who you were taught you were, and then you realize this is who you are. So you have to let go of all this that you have built your identity around. And even when it comes to the the approval, where how you accepted, where you belong, because the moment you embrace whatever path that you are meant to walk, then the people who are still stuck into this is how it has to be, they're not going to go with you. Like you said, it's the first thing. I remember I met my husband when I was just an accountant, and I was going through my own trials and tribulations, but I knew that there is something that I was meant to do. And his thing, especially when it comes to this, kind of like, there's no higher power or that nonsense. Just forget about that nonsense. And here I was having this, what I know, what I've always known, and he's stuck in who I was. And the moment when I couldn't hold back anymore, and I felt like I have to step out of this, and he was stuck in, this is who you get to be. I miss the woman that I met, because for him it was something like, you're just being stupid now. I was more intelligent then. So now it's kind of like, I don't know who this stupid woman is. And as much as the marriage was not perfect, I would say 65%, 70% according to the normal, it was normal. But I had a choice. Do I sit here and deny who I am so that I can sustain this marriage? Or I'm choosing me and allowing myself to go on my path. And how does that path even look like? We don't know, because even when you're talking about evolution, even let's just say the desire requires us to be open and bring in the curiosity instead of thinking this is how it's gonna be. Because you realize that some of these things, they cost us something, in the sense of we may have to let go of things that we're attached to, that we identified with. And we may also need to also invest, whether it's money, time, and all that. You need to put something, and you need to release something, because if your space is full of what doesn't serve you, and you still want something else, what are you willing to let go of? And what does that even mean to you? So it's the beginning. It's not like I'm just gonna jump and then everything is gonna be rund und glatt, as they say in German, like smooth and flowy.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's not
Yeah.
that. It's just like the beginning. But the hardest part of it is, who am I being? And who do I want to come with? Because what I realize is that at times when we evolve and we realize, oh, it's good to be here, you just want to tell the whole world, especially your family, hey, this is a new way of being. Come with me, come play with me. And then they look at you like, oh, you crazy. This is satanism. Like it was happening with my family, where they just felt like, yeah, this is crazy. We don't know like. At times I remember even my niece wanted to call me, and my sister didn't allow her to call me, because she's like, I don't like what How is doing, so she didn't want to give her the phone. So it's things like that. And if at all what is important for you is to belong, then chances are you're gonna deny who you are so that you can belong. Because you're gonna lose some people along the way, whether it's friends, whether it's marriages dissolving, whether it's family not fully vibing with you or friends, because the conversations are gonna be different. So it costs something.
Exactly. And when it comes to healing an ancestral or past trauma, I I've heard that sometimes it can come about in unexpected ways as well. Like I've heard like it could change people's daily lives in ways they didn't expect. Have any of your clients ever experienced that where they got a completely different but still great like solution from like healing their traumas, like where they basically something they didn't expect to happen in their daily lives?
Um, what I remember, like one, I can't say not expect in a negative way, but it's more like what was coming to mind is like one client who she really hated her father, and she also didn't want to follow her mom's path because her mother was a healer, but from a religious setting. And
Hmm.
she, from childhood, she didn't go to the church that the mother was going to. She followed her own thing. But then when she started doing this work, she somehow disconnected to, like, her truth did not align with the church that she was going to at that time. So it was kind of like a fight around who she has been and who she has been with. And one other thing was like, how you don't understand because I met my husband in this church. So she was still attaching that to that, like it's because I got my husband here, so I get to be here. But on the other hand, where she was coming from, even when she was sharing that, her solar plexus was on fire. She was like fighting with her own power, with her own will. And I just say to her, like, as we're doing the work, I said, you've got two choices, you know. You let go of what has been or what happened, or you just try to find something good to appreciate about where you're at and continue being that, embracing that. And for her again, that was like, you're just crazy. So she ended up going on her own path where she was called. But like I also mentioned earlier, she lost most part of the community. And even when it comes to her father, who she hated, but not because of her, because of how the dynamic between her mother and father played out, and the mother was now gone. So there was a part of her that even blamed her father on that. So when she had to work on this, she was just actually, just that laughter of, I don't think me and my father, we can um make any amends in this lifetime or anything. But the question was, are you willing? So as we're doing the work, it's more like what has to happen or how it has to happen, but just allowing the medicine to work on you. And just after one session, she came back and she's like, I don't know what the heck happened. Like all the anger, all the resistance, and all that she had was kind of like dissolved. But at the same time, she hasn't had any conversation with her father yet, but the father was more still playing in the old patterns or how the relationship was, but she was no more triggered by that. All that she said was, I know I'm going to have a conversation with her at some point in time. And she has let go of whether she's going to be received or denied or whatever. It was more like, however, that he feels, I'm fine, but I just get to open up and share with her how I feel, that I've been personalizing my mom stuff and being here in my mom's battle, which was not mine to start with, and just embrace the man who he was. But on the other hand, with that, because when he was resisting the father, he was also resisting her masculine energy, when it comes to taking action, with the inspiration that is coming through, always procrastination, self-sabotage, and all that. But the moment she had this breakthrough, just 12 weeks after we were done with the work, she got a work as a consultant that was even paying her 90K, despite the 7 years that she was in the gutter struggling to get anything. So it's so many things can happen. And as much as I said, you lose something, you gain something. The question is, what are you valuing at that moment? Or Even it's not even about you controlling, it's more like being open to be led and guided, rather than holding into what you've always known, but trusting more of what your soul wants to give birth to. Yeah,
Makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, and it's true. You don't you good and bad comes always at the same time in life. Yin and yang exists for a reason. I mean, it's always
absolutely.
that you're always going to have some bad come with the good, or some good come with the bad. Either way, it's going to work out, and things kind of equal out eventually. Sometimes it takes time. It may
Yeah,
not seem that way, but things always do work out eventually in the long run.
yeah,
For some of us, it might be more devastating during the bad parts, but that's just the way life works, and it's just trying to climb out of it. Basically, you got to climb out of it.
yeah.
But one thing I did want to make sure I did talk to you about today, because this is something that we haven't approached on this show yet, and I like new topics. So I saw that you are a practicer of African ancient quantum medicine, and we've talked about quantum medicine on this show to some degree, but never from the angle of someone who studied it in the African ways. And that's always, I mean, okay, Africa has always intrigued me. I'm not gonna lie. I've always been intrigued by the country because it's so much history, so much straight up regular history, so much mystical history, so much legends, and I was always a Tarzan fan, so But I've read all those. I read all those books. That's like my idea of an adventure. But so, what is African quantum medicine like? How is it different from the ancient quantum medicine that the Asians and Native Americans used and everybody else?
African Asian quantum medicine, which is medicine magic, that's what M stands for, both. It's just that embracing the magic, because the difference is, like I said, when I look at how the other work is done, even including the whole quantum conventional work at times, it's more like doing it from the mind, you know. And when I look at this work, it's more in the being. Because when I look at this gift as when it just came through so strongly, I would say I don't really have much words to describe it because it's something that is more experiential rather than um like theoretical, because I can hear someone talking about something, but I'm experiencing it from the experiential path, But it's more like going deep within, and also even connecting to everything that exists, as you know, that especially when you're talking about Africa, there is a lot of mystic. Even there is also a lot of, I would say, darkness that also is not darkness. It's more like what the missionaries sold to people as they were converting people to the current religious system, So it's more like going back there and embracing our connection to everything that is, even including the earth, everything that is conscious, and knowing that it's not even something that is out there, it's something that is within us. So it's more like awakening that magic within somebody, and how does that look like? It's different for everybody. And here's the thing, I'm just going to give you an example when it comes to this work. And it's more like the playing in the shadow, but more like bringing in the light in the shadow, I
Hmm.
had this other person. I mean, I know the person, but this person was not my client. And I just traveled energetically. And here I was fighting all these big snakes that kind of like pulled this little child under the way the vision appeared, or how I saw it when I was there. It pulled her under the house, like deep in the ground, So I'm looking at everybody. I'm just like, what is happening here? Who's gonna go there and get this child? You know, and no one is doing anything. And I'm going around with those whole thing. I know that this child has to come out. And at the end of this journey that I did, because when you're talking about magic, is even that ability to leave the body and travel out and travel while the
Yep.
body is there and do whatever that needs to be done. It's still magic, even when it comes to, like, for instance, when it comes to this work. Just for those people who maybe are scared by anything, I can just say I can just call it that I access your energetic fields. But in truth is I get to embody you. I get to know every single little shit that is going with you. And the crazy thing is, even at times, even when someone is on the period, I'll just feel that drop of blood that is just like coming out. So that's like how crazy it is, where every single heartbeat, raising, confliction, whatever, I just get to know whatever that is just going on. So with this person, after that journey, the name is quite interesting because I'm just being drawn to the name a lot today. The name just came through. I called this person's name, but with the question of what is this person here for, you know? And when I called her, I called him, and then we had to work together. And I realized that the whole dark magic is kind of like when she was born, there is magic. So whatever that was done, that was against her will or something like that. She's alive. He's alive, but he's not alive in the sense of the way it felt like it's kind of like his spirit or something was kind of like put somewhere in a coffin or whatever. So it's kind of like he's alive, but part of him is like stuck somewhere. And it's all again people's doing, because when you're talking about Africa, dark magic, there is that, So there is
Yep.
that going on, and when you're talking about hexes, curses, and all that. So when it comes to this work, it's more going deep into the trenches, deep into the darkness, and also being able to help someone connect to the higher self, but it's still bringing in, not even leaving the body to go and access that, is connecting to that and bringing that heaven here. So it's like that magic and mystical and mysterious. It can be scary for other people, but when you embrace it, because it's the power that is within us, when you let go of how it has to be or how it has to look like. So when I meet with somebody who is open and ready to just go beyond the beyond, it's just like what we do. But even when I look at this work, it's more like I get to do what I get to do, and you get to experience it yourself. It's not like I'm gonna tell you this is what gets to happen. You gonna experience it yourself. You're gonna go through that. Like I said, it's not something that is more theoretical. It's more something that is experiential. Yeah.
Which makes sense. And we are getting close to the end here, but before we do, I did want to ask you this, and actually this ties perfectly into what you were just talking about in a way. Do do you believe that these evils that humanity has believed existed for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, whether it be vengeful spirits or demons or just jinns as they call them in other parts of the world, do you believe that these elemental evils like can exist? Like, are they on the same plane as us?
Do I
Like, does
believe
that
that the
like
demons, darkness, whatever? Yeah.
like do you believe that possession is actually possible? Do you believe that people can actually be overtaken by actual evil things that are not their own mind's creation?
If I can do, if I can do, because I mean, I like I said, I come from the background where there was more fear of darkness. And I also had that fear because as a child, you are open, you don't know shit. But on the other hand, you experience shit. I'm the kind of child who was waking up and waking my parents and telling them this is what is happening. And they may not understand it, but on the other hand, when they went and asked for help outside, they would experience that. I mean, the I don't even know what to say, but this shit is real. That's all I can tell you. I've seen it the other time. There was this other noise that just disturbed me. There was something that was moving in the house. Something was moving. It was making noise at night, and it kept me up at night. And I would wake my parents and tell them some shit is going on here, and they didn't know what that was. And then they called someone. This person came to come and remove this thing, whatever you call it, entity, demon, whatever, but it was more interesting because how this thing was made. It was like a horn. It was like a horn, and then there was just like some red thread around it. But this shit was moving. It was running from the house, outside the house, in the whole yard. These people were chasing it. But at the end, they caught it, and that's when they like called me like, "Hey, this is the thing that has been disturbing you." It's kind of like just a horn, but it was moving and it was very fast. So this shit is real. I've seen it all as a child. I've seen it even when people talk about, even when we're talking about, for instance, whether it's witchcraft. Witchcraft is a word that people fear, but I don't believe witchcraft means darkness. I believe there is everything has the opposite. There is light and dark in everything.
Exactly.
So yeah. So for me, I still remember even as a child, I was sleeping and I could hear people dancing and singing in the there is a house and then there is, oh my god, what is that called? Kind of like way sort of like a veranda, but not your modern
What,
veranda, like our own traditional traditional one, something like
like
that.
like a porch,
Yeah,
like a
where
porch?
people can just yeah, where people can just sit and then there is the house. So there was just that. So
Yeah, porch.
yeah, so people were dancing and doing all sorts of things there, and it's in the night. They want, from my understanding in my background and all everything, it's kind of like there is a ritual that people in the dark have to do for them to come inside, right? So I couldn't allow them to, because I could see them, I could feel them, I could hear them, and whatever that they were doing, they were there for a long time and I was up for a long time. And I still remember at the end, um they kind of like took the sand, they threw the sand through the window, because it was like a normal traditional hut, the ones that we
Yeah.
have. We didn't have those windows. They threw the sand through the window. But on the other hand, because of what happened the following day, I just knew what has happened, but I couldn't speak. I couldn't. I was just sick, and I couldn't explain exactly what happened when I was asked why, what happened, why are you feeling the way you're feeling, because my temperature was high, but I could not speak until after some time. So I've seen a lot of shit, and this shit is real, and it's real, and it's not real in the sense of, and in the sense of course it exists, all these things exist, but the question is, where are we operating from? If I'm coming from fear, I'm gonna match that energy. So it's more like these things will still have access to me. But if I'm not vibrating in that frequency, they don't even have access to me. And I've seen it, even like talking about being separated from my children. Oh my God. This is another topic for another day, because it's just a lot. I've had my children even after we were reunited. The other one was just like in the morning, instead of going to school, he would see some creatures and start running around, and I had to, for me to clear this, I had to connect with these fucking creatures. And I'm telling you, I've seen it all, but this was like another species of creatures because it's like another level devil, scary shit that I don't even have the definition to say this is a dog or whatever. No, it's just like some creature that is weird in its own way. So yeah, these things exist.
Well, I kind of was hoping that was the way that you would feel about it. So I'm really happy with that question. I really am. I think I got a good conversation out of that question for sure. I was hoping it would be something similar to that. And I mean, yeah, you are. Africa is a very mystical place. I mean, that's where voodoo and that's where hoodoo come from. Like, it's a very mystical place with a lot of ancient secrets that people have been trying to unlock for centuries and they still can't, because it's just, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. There's a reason. There's a reason they call it the motherland, and there's a reason
Yeah,
ancient things locked there that I don't think people should unlock, because it's not going to be good for anybody if they do. You don't want to.
absolutely.
There's some ancient stuff locked there, whether it be evil or good or both. I don't know, but I wouldn't want to unlock it either way, because you don't mess with stuff from the past. You just don't. I mean,
It,
you
it, it's
shouldn't
it's
do.
a lot. And also, like, for instance, just looking at my path, where I am, which is, I would still say my gift is not fully unlocked, but it's kind of, when I look at what I went through, I kept meeting different, um like, old people, old Asian people, and the message that they're bringing every single time, use this gift for the good. And when I look at where I was when I was even separated with my children, I was flipping thirsty for blood. And we say it that I'll kill for my children. I wanted to kill for my children. And now you can imagine where I was not fully empowered, where my heart was closed, where I was operating from fear. If I have that, what am I going to do with it? So I truly believe all this that is happening, because I found myself with every experience, I found myself just being in this love, just seeing the wound that these people are playing out, not necessarily that they want to hurt me. I realized that it's not personal. And I also realized that some of the things is just like that karma balancing itself, because even when I look at this gift that I have or that I'm mentoring, there is a part of me, this is why I'm saying I haven't fully unlocked it. Just a few weeks ago, I was just sitting with that. There's a part of me that is scared of the power. What is it that I can do when I have this, especially when I'm coming in with some unhealed things? So at times, the healing part is necessary so that when you have the power to destroy, you choose not to destroy. You can, but you choose not to, but you rather choose to build. That's the power of discernment, knowing that I can, yeah, cause a massacre if I choose to, but I don't choose to because I know the damage that this has done going back to the past. So that's the
Yep.
the magic between embracing it, but from the healed place, of which at times our challenges are just preparing us for that.
And that right there, folks, is a very good message to actually end the show on. Because I mean, when you can choose light over darkness, and you actually follow the light, that's always the right path. I mean, it's always the right path, and
Yeah.
it's the power behind that is immense to be able to do that, and not because the darkness is easier. It usually is, but
Oh,
it's not.
yes.
The end results will not be better for anybody. So, but that's a good message. I'm gonna end it right there and stop talking now. God damn it, Jeremy, shut up. But uh, it was a pleasure having you on. And where can people find you if they want to reach out to you to get some help, either with some psychic surgery or anything really? Where can they find you? Promote yourself.
Yeah. I'm available on social media, Gao Motsemme, on Facebook, Gao Motsemme, LinkedIn, Gao Motsemme, Instagram, Gao Motsemme, magnetic confidence, GAOMOTSE double ME. And I'm gonna share a link with you. I call it orgasmic clarity. And I'm just giving anyone an intro to my work, 45 minutes. If you are open to have this orgasmic clarity call, let's do it. So I'm just gonna share the link with you. I'll drop it and then you can share it in your notes and people can book the call who are feeling called to find out what the hell is going on, what is standing in your way of your success and freedom. Yeah.
Well, there you go, folks. And it's Pride Month, so it's a good month for that too. So it's all lined up. I mean, it all lines up in a way. You gotta love it. And all my listeners, you know where you can find me. If you don't by now, just goddamn shame. But it's all in the outro. Check out the outro. I'm not saying it again. I refuse. But I want to thank Hal for coming on because it's been an amazing episode. Amazing episode. I truly have loved it, and I can't wish my listeners to enjoy it as well. But I will see you all, I believe, on Monday with another interview. But till next time, have a good Saturday, everybody. That's on my time zone, and everywhere else too, I guess.